My family had given me a phone to call them with, like, when I got to each airport, letting them know that I was making it over there safely, but apparently I misplaced it, quote unquote, and I had to borrow some lady's phone in Salt Lake City right before we hopped on the plane, and was just, like, bawling my eyes out. I can't believe I'm leaving the country. I'm not going to see you guys for forever. And then we eventually made it to Portland, and then we thought we had enough time to, like, go on the other side of the terminal, because the terminal was kind of semi-short, where all the planes would load, and then really long, and then short again on the other side, where, like, the restrooms and, like, the food court area was. We decided to go over there. We thought we had a lot of time. And shortly thereafter, final call boarding for Tokyo, and we were, oh crap, Elder Stowe, get out of the bathroom, we gotta go right now, we're gonna miss our flight. And we almost missed our flight to Japan. And that would have been funny, call the mission president, hey, you've got like 3 or 4 elders that are stranded in Portland that haven't even gotten to Japan yet. What are we gonna do about this? But that was pretty fun. Or then the time when we went from Tokyo and eventually got to Manila, and you finally stepped outside of the airplane and you were just engulfed in the humidity. It was crazy how hot and humid it was over there, but you grew to love it. And then I think the really big culture shock for me over there was not too many people have cars. I mean, like, you have your buses and your vehicles for like the richer or the upper class people. But I remember standing on the floor we were in the hotel just really close to the airport, and I just looked out the window and counted the number of motorcycles that just went by on the road beneath us, and I counted 50 in less than a minute. I was, holy crap, I've never seen that many motorcycles in less than a minute in my life. I've only seen like 1 or 2 on the highway at random points, thing like that when you're traveling day to day. But it was just really, really interesting. I didn't know they had that much motorcycle stuff like that over there. And then we finally got to the mission. It only took an hour to get there from Manila, roughly. Got picked up by the assistants, finance elder, supply elder, and we all got taken to mission home. It was great. I got to email my family because I hadn't gotten hold of them since I left Salt Lake City, so they didn't know if I made it over there or not. But it was pretty fun. My mission president was awesome. He and his wife are from here in Perry, Utah, President and Sister Reader, and they actually come home in a little less than a month. They're finishing up, which is super, super cool. But met him, probably one of the first things I remember when we got over there. We could finally shower and sleep in a nice room that was, had the AC. Or the next morning after we had slept our first night there, our mission president gave us 100 pesos, which is like less than $3 our money. And we went to a restaurant called Biggs, and we had a simple breakfast with rice, of course, because that's what they eat every meal. And then we all got to meet our trainers. My first companion, his name was Elder Tehelo, from a place in the Philippines called Vigan in Ilocos Sur. And it was cool. We all got our cute little pillows, stuff like that, so we'd have a pillow to sleep with over our mission. And it was cool. He was a really cool guy. He trained right after his training, so it was his 3rd transfer out in the field, and he started to train me. And it was great. On our way to our first area, I think someone with a calling, one of the elders, they drove us there in a mission van or something like that, but we stopped on the side of the road, and they got some food, some show pao for us. My companion was, here, Elder, try this. So I was like, okay, I don't know what the heck this is, but it's just a mix of bread, eggs, and meat. You can get it toasted or steamed. I prefer steamed. Steamed's pretty good, and it's just pure white and wrapped in a little bit of plastic that you just tear off and eat it. Pretty cheap. You can get it anywhere that has a show pao place. And it was awesome. And then we finally got to my first area, which was a place called Lagonoy. It's the farthest northeast in our mission you could go. If I had a picture, I'd show you. But if our mission was like right here at this circle, there's a huge mountain. It's called Mount Isarug. That's just right next to it. You have to go underneath it and around and up a little bit to get to my first area. And that's the farthest we have that way in the mission that has missionaries in it, because everything else after that isn't a highway or like a freeway road, thing like that. It's just all dirt and rocky roads, and the NPA are out there, which is a terrorist group, thing like that, and they don't want to risk any missionaries out that far, maybe because of that or disobedience and stuff like that. But it was pretty fun. I remember while I was there, while I was still in my training, the zone leaders contacted the entire zone and said, Everyone has a curfew. You have to come in at 6 o'clock now because there were like 3 escapees from the prison in Lagonoy, which just happened to be in my area, in our farthest area called Burabud, getting really, really close out to the mountains. And apparently we learned a couple days later that they had gone through the area where we worked in, and that someone had been killed and someone had been robbed and stuff. So it was scary. I don't even know if they were caught, but I think they might have. But it was a pretty fun place. I was in my first area for 6 months. Only had 2 companions there. My follow-up was from here in Utah, from American Fork, Elder Magleby. And after that, I got transferred, and I got put back with my trainer for my second area for a week. We were in a place called Nabua, which was my second. I was there for 4.5 months. And then after our week together, the other 2 elders in the house, one of them got they switched companions. The assistants called us. The district later then became my companion, Elder Tafianga, who was from Samoa. And we worked and worked and worked. Eventually, Elder Tafianga left us and got ET'd to the mission home. And then it was just us in a trisom for a while. For about a week or so, working with the trisom companionship. It was kind of hard, especially hard to teach, because I'd never been in their area and stuff like that. But yeah, my first and second areas were lots and lots of rice fields. People would see you on the side of the street and point at you, Americano, Americano. You just, hi, nothing like that, because I didn't know the language very well at all. Like, I could pick up bits and pieces there, and eventually it progressed pretty good. And then after Elder Tafianga, I got Elder Hodge as my companion, who was from New South Wales, Australia. I was with him for a while. And while I was with him as companion, the second hurricane that I went through came and hit our mission. The first one was the one that the entire world knew about. It was known to us as Yolanda, Hurricane Yolanda, which killed tens of thousands of people down in Tacloban and destroyed a quarter of the country, thing like that. But it didn't affect our mission very much. The second one did. It came right over where we were living, like the eye of the hurricane did. And it decimated everything, and we lost water and power for 2 weeks. The rivers there easily rose a good 5+ feet. Trees as thick as like Volkswagen bugs or something like that over here, snapped in half like toothpicks and twigs. Houses were collapsed. Whole bunch of debris all over in the road. Power lines were knocked down. It wasn't necessarily scary. I mean, we did have a semi-flood in our house, even though we had a metal crate that you could pull down to protect water from getting in. It still got in, so we were up half the night sweeping the water out of our house and trying to make sure it was clean, that nothing was lost and stuff like that. And then we went out and surveyed the damage the next day after it had all happened. And then for the next 2 or 3 weeks, we didn't proselyte at all or do any work. We were just doing service projects for anybody. Most of it was hacking away at fallen trees and stuff like that with machetes, which is how I got 2 scars, a scar on my hand and a scar on my toe, because I was being kind of silly and wore flip-flops when the second scar came, but the first one came when we were splitting bamboo in half to make a fence for a member family that lived a couple blocks away from our house. And as I was slitting it, my hand was facing downward, and so the bamboo just caught it and just slit my hand right open. And the sisters were there, luckily, and they made a makeshift bandage and stuff, but I still have the scar on my hand. And then the second one came from one of the elders in my house. He was cutting at a branch, and the blade fell out of the handle, flipped through the air, and slit my toe open on my left foot. So I was lucky it didn't go down too far, but it went deep enough to leave a scar. So yeah, that was pretty fun. That was actually probably my hardest area, my second area. The people didn't like us too much down there. It was really strong Catholic influence in that area. Not to say that they're bad or anything. They're really, really nice people. They're just really set in their ways and their beliefs and stuff like that. I think the coolest thing about that place is we had a 7-Eleven. We had an Atlantic bakery shop, which is just good bread shop. We had 2 Makagung's diners, which are really known for their really, really good food. They've got Thai food, Filipino food, Vietnamese food, whole bunch of stuff down there. My area was probably about 90% out away from the city, kind of in the jungle, the brush area, stuff like that. The other 10% was in kind of center eastern part of the city. That was kind of a hard area to work in. We liked working out farther away where you could just walk through acres and acres of rice fields. It was really fun. And then, actually a really good experience that happened out there that I'm remembering. It was while I was with Elder Hodge. He and I were, we were called by a member early one morning before 7 o'clock, and she's calling us in a panic. Elders, my daughter, who was mentally handicapped and has been for her whole life, she said she's got a whole bunch of like welts and blisters and pus and stuff all over her body. I don't know how it happened. It just appeared out of nowhere. Can you guys come over here and give her a blessing? And she lived about a half hour away. So we had to walk to the highway, catch a ride to the center of the city, which took a couple minutes, and then catch a tricycle ride to way out there, 15 minutes out, easily out there, and then hike through the jungle a good 10-15 minutes to get to where her house was. And we gave her a blessing, blessed her that she'd be okay, that the sickness that was upon her would leave according to her faith, her family's faith, her mom's faith especially, because her mom was the only active member in her family at that time. And the next day, I believe we got a text or a call from her saying that her daughter was completely cured. Nothing was like ravishing her, hurting her body anymore. And it was just, wow. The priesthood works, but wasn't through us, it was through that woman's faith. And she's a super, super nice lady. But, you know, her life's tough. But it was fun to be there for the time. Other than it was just really, really hard. I guess other really good memories, my first area. My trainer and I think we, in our time together for 2 transfers, we had 4 baptisms, which were nice. A brother and sister were baptized. I baptized the youngest one. He was about 10, 11 years old, and his older sister was 14. And then another girl we baptized. Oh, we didn't baptize her. Her brother baptized her because he was a recent convert, and he was old enough to be a priest and baptize her, which was really, really neat. And then the second area, within my first week, they already had an investigator that was golden and was progressing to baptism, and she asked if I could baptize her, so I did. And after that, I didn't have a baptism for a while, and after my second area, I got transferred to my third area, and I pretty much prophesied I would get called to that area because I had heard about it in my first area from my district leader, Elder Pickford, who's also from Australia, because he had served in that area as well. It's called Mercedes, and it's known as a barley town. Not very many people know what that is, except for like the Filipino missions. It's, you know, like elders having relationships with girls, stuff like that, which is of course, you know, like prohibited, disobedient, stuff like that. So he said, you know, it's a problem in that area, thing like that. Just warning me beforehand if I ever got called there. And sure enough, I got called there. And was companions with Elder Atchley from Gilbert, Arizona. I was only with him for 2 transfers, but during my time with him, I got my highest number of lessons taught in a week. I got around 32-ish lessons. While I was there, we tracted a kid named Diaman, who eventually, after I left, was baptized. I heard it from my companion after I had been transferred from that area. It was my favorite area, even though I was there for the shortest amount of time, just 2 transfers. The bishop was awesome. Bishop Apolinario and his family were super, super cool. The week before I got there, my companion and his companion, Elder Rushki, had found a less active brother who had been less active for several years because of an incident that happened in his life where people thought he did something, but he didn't do it. And because of that, he went less active. But he was a really, really cool guy, Rennie Macaro. I remember the first time I saw him, I'll never forget it. We were walking in the sand in between a little gate by his property that leads into it, and we taupo at his house, which means that, you know, there's somebody here. And he comes out in a button-down shirt that's wide open and a Speedo. And that's a really awesome way to meet someone for a first experience. I'll never forget this guy now, but he was really, really fun. We activated him to a point where he started coming to church almost regularly, and most of the times we'd go over and teach him, we'd start off with a small game of chess. Just, you know, like kind of get him interested, be like, okay, we can do this first, but then after this we got to do a lesson. Deal? Okay, elders, let's go. Thing like that. And my companion would play chess with him, or I'd play chess with him a couple of times. And then we teach him. We watched a lot of the DVDs that the church provides, like The Prophet of the Restoration, Mountain of the Lord, and other movies like that, just to try and spark his interest in coming back to church, which he eventually did. And after I was transferred from that area, my companion told me he even brought random kids to church just to increase the attendance, which was pretty funny, but that was a really fun area. There was a place in the area called Mangisok, and you had to go to the harbor and get a boat and pay a fare to go across. It took about 5-7 minutes, depending on how much the wind was blowing, how many people were on the ship, how strong the waves and stuff were. But that was actually a pretty fun area to work in. There was a girl over that was recently baptized before I got over there. Her name was Marla Saludes, and she has a speech impediment, which causes her to speak in kind of, I don't know how to say it. It's high pitched. It almost sounds like really high pitched groaning or mumbling, and you can't understand her. But if you speak slowly enough that she can read lips, but she can still hear pretty good. She can understand what you're saying. And whenever we teach her and the lady that she lived with, Naga, who was an older lady, maybe in her 70s, and we wanted her to pray, we would sit down and kind of do this, the Maila, which means like, Maila, you pray for us, and she'd get all shy and like try and shy away from what we were trying to ask her, but she'd eventually do it, and you could always tell when she said amen, because she would stop talking, it would go really quiet, but you could just tell that she was finishing her prayer. And she's super, super nice. I liked her a lot. It kind of got harder to work in the area as the farther we went away from the main part of the land, harder it became to find people that were really willing to listen to us. We ran into a lady and her husband that are Elohists. I had never heard of that religion before, and we had members with us. We were trying to talk to them, tract, and proselyte out there and try and see if we could give them a pamphlet, but I don't think they were too interested. They gave us a pamphlet, and we were able to give one to them as well, just a restoration pamphlet, and it was interesting, some of the things they believed in. I can't remember I think we gave it to one of the members over there, but the people over there were pretty nice, once they accepted our friendship and finally figured out that we care about them, which goes along with the saying, people don't know how much you care until people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Then they would finally open up to us, and it was just way fun. While I was there, the day after my birthday, or the night before, the church got robbed. Someone broke in through the gate, welded off a piece of the gate, snuck inside, brought a ladder inside, slipped some of the glass pieces in the windows out, snuck inside, opened doors, brought the ladder inside, and stole all the ceiling fans out of the chapel. And has to be on my birthday. Come on, you guys couldn't wait? Or whatever, but it was a really, really fun experience. That was my area my last area where I cried when I left, just because I was so sad to be leaving that place, because the work was just booming up there, and the sisters were having baptisms every other week because of a sister, De La Torre, who now lives here in Utah and is married to an elder from our mission. But it was just really, really cool up there. The ward was really receptive. We got fed every week, and that never happened to me unless something big happened, like you were transferred into the area, or you were leaving, or there was someone new that was coming into the ward or the area where you lived, or special circumstance, something like that. And it was just really, really cool. And after I left that area and started getting into my other areas and doing work over there, I learned from my companion who got transferred to the area next to us that Claire was on a mission in Hong Kong, and that Diane was going to, I think it was the Kauaian mission and stuff like that, and that area was just booming with success with the members, the YSA there and stuff like that they were all going on missions and just having a blast. I really wish I could go back there and just say hi to everybody again, but I don't really have time and money right now. College student, but the night came when transfer call came, And our mission was the only mission in the entire country that did transfers this way. The assistants or the zone leaders would call us Saturday night and say, okay, so-and-so's transferring, be at the transfer point at this time. And that was it. And I just happened to answer the phone that night, and the zone leaders were there, and they said, hey, can we talk to your companion? So, and then he was told he was staying and that I was leaving, and I was going to become the senior companion. For first time in my mission, I became the senior companion. But I was just devastated to leave because I didn't want to, and we were all expecting him to leave, things like that, but it didn't happen. So I left first and got transferred to my fourth area called Paracale, which is a gold mining town in the northern province of our mission. So my first and second areas were in the southern province, from Laganoy to down here towards the southern part in Nabua, and then transferred all the way up to the northern province into a place called Mercedes, and then farther north, 2 hours north of Mercedes, into Paracale with Elder Asiunga. And he was a cool guy. The first time I met him was actually, we had come from, I want to say, a mission tour when Elder Ardern came to our mission and spoke with us. And met him on the bus, and then eventually became his companion. And we went to the McDonald's that was pretty close to where we met, and he bought me some food, and I was like, no, I like this guy, because he's half Australian, half Samoan. He's a really humble dude, loves to exercise, had a 15 and 40 kilo weight in the house when we got there, but yeah, 2 hours away from the hospital in my last area. We got up there and we started working and trying to do anything we could. The place had been a branch for 16 years because of how difficult it was to find good people to teach up there, but it wasn't all that bad. Before I get to the good stuff, another story. While we were there, I had slipped in my third area and smashed my toe like that against the cement, and it had been a month since it hadn't grown at all. So I eventually had to call our mission president's wife and say, is it okay if I go to the hospital? My toenail's dead. It's just bugging me. I want to get it taken out. So we went down 2 hours away to the closest hospital with good medical care. 8 pokes of the anesthetic later, they ripped my toenail out and put a bandage over it, said put this little mesh gauze over it and don't walk on it for a week. So there was a week that I didn't have work. And then the week right after that, my companion had to go to that same hospital because he had an ingrown. Same foot, same toe. And he had it operated on, but the night we got there, because we left in the afternoon, because he asked to go then, it turned out that when we got there, the doctor wasn't in. The nurses said, oh yeah, he's not in right now. Just come back tomorrow. And we had been waiting for a while to get it, and we'd eventually asked a lady that was there who had an Alvino's shirt on, which is just a restaurant like a block away from the hospital, if she could get us some food. And she said, sure, it's free of charge. I'll do it for you guys. So we were thrilled about that. And then they said, you got to go home, come back tomorrow. So, we left all bummed that we just spent all this money to get down to the hospital and nothing happened. And then we made it back to the bus terminal. There's no buses. There's no jeepneys. There's no tricycles. There's no public utility vehicles or PUV buses. So we're stranded. And we're not going to pay 500 pesos or more to some random dude to take us 2 hours away. It would have been more, depending on his transportation, to get up there. So we walk all the way from one part of the city where the bus terminal is around here, all the way down past the 7-Eleven and the SM Mall. And then all the way past the second 7-Eleven, all the way across the bridge, down by the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church, which is Church of Christ, over there. And on our way over there, we had called our mission president and the zone leaders in that area because I happened to have their number in my planner, just in case of emergency. Got a hold of them. They said, okay, this is how you get to our house. And I had been to it before, so I knew the way. And explained our situation to our mission president. My companion and I are stranded up here. What should we do? Just go and find the zone leader's house, because that's the only house that I had known in that area. So we eventually made it over there. I think we walked 5K, like 5 kilometers or something, to find their house, which was pretty far. And it was night, still humid, sweaty, just tired as can be. Finally make it to their house, and they came home after a while. And the zone leaders just happened to be having exchanges with the assistants. So here come the assistants all the way from Naga, 4 hours up to go to diet. And it was interesting that night. We only had one working fan, so my companion and I had to try and like keep it oscillating so it hit both of us, and it rarely hit me, so I got bitten by mosquitoes all that night. And then the next morning we made it back to the doctor. He got his nail ripped out completely, just like mine. Same routine, same everything. Don't walk on it for a week. And then with all the time we were sick up there because the water up there was kind of bad to drink, we probably didn't work for at least half a transfer combined with how sick we got. But it was okay. I was with him for a transfer and then told that I was going to be transferring with him. That was a lie. I didn't get transferred. The zone leaders told me that you're going to stay here, wait for your companion to come up, but you're going to meet him. And so I eventually met my next companion, Elder Tadina, who was from La Union, Philippines. But he moved to Singapore. And while there, he told me a little bit about it, how it's mandatory for all the kids his age, like 18 and above, to serve 2 years in either the fire department, police department, or the Marines. So he joined the Marines for 2 years and had combat experience and all that fun stuff. He was a pretty cool guy. I was with him for a couple of transfers, but eventually I couldn't take it too much more up there. The work was just getting really, really hard. It was kind of difficult to get along with him, stuff. But eventually we got baptismal dates, things with the zone leaders, and having exchanges. We had our Christmas party up there, which was pretty fun. The church was on top of a building with a little Nipa hut on top where the chapel was held, like with cement and plastered walls, but a Nipa roof to keep it from getting wet on the inside. We eventually did find a few people that we taught that eventually got baptized. Randy, Russell, and Rico Joyo Falda were all baptized, brothers and sister. Their parents had moved to that place from the capital region around Manila and Quezon City area. Merly Fuentes, we found her through tracting because her husband called out to us randomly one day when we went to try and find a member to teach, but couldn't find it, so he was just, elders, kind of thing like that, just sitting on a bench, and something inside of me was just like, no, I don't want to talk to this guy. I'm bored out of my mind. No one is listening to us. I'm fed up with it. Let's go somewhere else. But something told me, just go and talk to this guy. Go and talk to him, try and make a friend. Made a friend, met his wife and daughter, and eventually his wife got baptized. Turns out they were tracted into a year ago in the area just southeast of us called Vincent's by the elders over there, but weren't able to get them baptized because they weren't married yet. But they got married in between that year period. And so we taught her. The Ofalda family was progressing. She was progressing. And then I want to say there was one more man we met over there whose name was George. I'm not sure if that's his real name or not, but we eventually taught him. He had moved from the area northwest of us to our area that had been run into by the missionaries in that area, and we taught him. So all in all, 5 people were baptized that I taught, but that was after I was transferred from that area. So after Elder Tadina, I was transferred all the way back down to the southern part of our mission, again in a place called Tigaon, which is in my first zone. So my first area was in a place called Gova Zone. My second area was in a place called Iraga Zone. My third was in Diet Zone. Fourth was in Labo Zone. But Labo is just so far away and not very many missionaries out there. It just shrank and became part of Diet Zone. So you've got 3 hours from tip to tip of the zones. But there was more in the upper province that could have been open for missionary work, but it was just too far away. And I got transferred back to my first zone. I spent 6 months in my first, 4.5, then 3, then 4.5. My last area I was there for 6 months, so I spent 1 year in a zone. Same zone. And I met my companion Elder Peralta at transfer point, who is from Misamis Oriental, or Occidental, I think, part of the southern part of the Philippines. And I was companions with him for a couple of transfers. It was kind of hard to get the work started in the beginning in that area because they hadn't been having too much success before. There had been a girl that had been baptized. Her name was Ivy Belita, and we met her eventually, and we kept teaching her and her cousin that lives with her and her family that lives there, her grandma and grandpa. But her mother wouldn't let her be baptized because she wasn't old enough. And she just plain out didn't like us. Whenever we saw her or tried to talk to her, she'd just give us silent treatment and completely ignore us. But it was okay. We taught and taught and taught her. She literally could be a member right now if her mother would have permitted it years ago. But, and then Michael and Julie Perez, they were a fun family to teach. They lived out in the middle of this huge rice field, probably a good 6 acres big, all around them. And we had a lot of fun teaching them. They progressed quite a bit. My last Sunday in my mission, they came to church, which was awesome. I was super glad to have investigators come to church, which was pretty hard to get people to come to church because, like they're willing to listen to you, they're willing to read something, they're willing to do something that you ask them to do. But when it comes to church, they kind of tend to shy away from that more than anything, just because a lot of them are really, really poor over there and they can't afford the fare for the transportation, like the buses and stuff for the jeepneys. But we made really good friends with them and just kept teaching and teaching. Brother Michael makes marble guns, which are technically illegal if you use them for a wrong reason, but they use them for hunting over there. And he showed us how it works, how he'd unscrew a canister, spray some certain spray in there to help conduct electricity and get it flowing through the circuit correctly, screw the thing back on, drop a marble down in the barrel, and he blasted through an 1.5 inch thing of PVC pipe. Easy, just split it, which was really cool. And then after a while, Elder Peralta got transferred, and then I got my companion who's the known person in the mission for piano skills, Elder Makabalug from Quezon City, Manila area. And he was really good. He was our pianist for church and stuff. He was just crazy. I was with him for a transfer and we, worked. But while I was with him, having it happen again, my toenail came back and had gotten ingrown on both sides. So we had to go back to the hospital and get both sides of my toenail ripped out. So I just had the line in the middle. If that's from my toe, just the nail down the middle, this side gone, the other side gone. And he was like, this is an awesome way to end a mission. Not very much work, which sucked because it was nearing my end of my mission as well. I was just a transfer behind him. But the ward over there was pretty fun. The bishop was really nice. Our ward is a really chill ward. Like, they'd be willing to work with us if occasion permitted it, thing like that. They loved to talk to us. And overall, I really liked that ward. It was pretty fun. The bishop lived forever away, though. We had to travel about 10 minutes by bus from the center of the city, from where we lived, to make it to the place where we worked, hop on a tricycle and take that for about 5-6 minutes out to a place called Salugun, which is a barangay over there, or just like a little mini municipality area. And then keep taking it down until we get in front of the Partido State University Tigaon campus college area, and then walk a few more minutes into the jungle and brush to reach his house. But he and his family were really nice. What else? While we were there, we had another hurricane. We had another one that came while I was in my 4th area as well. And when it pours rain, it doesn't just pour because of the wind, pushes it. So it would come literally like at a 45-degree angle and would come into our house and get the couch in our room all soaking wet and stuff, and just really miserable when that stuff happens. We happened to be playing basketball as an entire district when the hurricane came over, and we just stayed there and played basketball the entire time while it was happening because it was a covered court, and we were pretty safe. And eventually, Elder Makabalug went home along with our district leader, Elder Rajendran, who was from Sri Lanka, and I had a really fun experience with him. We were having transfers one day, not transfers, exchanges, and we were going in to work in his area called Sangay, which was quite a ways away. So we eventually made it all the way out there. We taught a few people because the area that he finished his mission in was also his second area. So we spent a long time in one area and was really familiar with it in Ward 1 while I was in Ward 2. But after we made it out there to that part of his area, it had gotten pretty dark, about 8 o'clock at night, and there wasn't any transportation to get us home, so we had called this random guy off the street and ask if we could hop on the back of his motorcycle and have him take us back into the center of the city, which was a good 8 miles away. It was pretty fun because it started raining. And we started taking selfies on the motorcycle, and it was pretty fun. even though we probably shouldn't have done that because they were like prohibited because of stories and rules we'd heard in other missions where an elder had gotten killed and sisters had gotten separated from each other and stuff like that. So they were outlawed or something like that in our mission. But that was the only way we could get home unless we wanted to get home past 11 o'clock at night from walking, which neither of us wanted to do. So, kind of lesser of two evil things. Not really the walking was evil, but all that stuff. It was just a hard decision to make, but we eventually made it home. Everything was all hunky-dory and all good. And then Elder Makabalag left for home, and I got my last companion, Elder Cortez, who was also from the Philippines. He was originally from Davao, which is in the southern part of the country, but he and his family moved up towards the capital area in Manila. I was with him for my last transfer, and the work wasn't really going very good in that area, so we just tried to teach less actives as much as we could, try and track an OIM anybody out there, to just make a friend, to possibly have someone to teach. It was just really, really hard to get any teaching done because not very many people wanted to listen to us and stuff. And then eventually, a couple weeks before I was finishing my mission, the assistants called and told us that our area was closing. And it sucked. We were like, oh great. This is the worst possible way for me to end my mission. This is just the worst thing ever. I can't believe they're closing our area. So we might as well do what we can. Even though we didn't really want to work, because it's, what good are we going to do? But, we just kept pushing on through and worked and worked and worked. Just less active after less active and recent convert, whatever we had out there. On the rare occasion, we would get another lesson taught or a member present lesson with an investigator. But the end of my mission finally came. My birthday was August 5th, and we had it with the bishop's family, and we had a whole bunch of food. And it was super, super good. Had a great time. The entire district came over, and we had a blast. And then week after my birthday, probably one of the toughest days of being a missionary is when you finally go home. I was just in my house with the other three that were in there, the other two, and then my companion. Said goodbyes with everyone, got our farewell picture. My companion, came with me, grabbed my luggage. We all said a prayer before I left, and traveled down to the other elder's house, which was about half a mile away or so, and got with the other guy that was leaving, Elder Asolme, who was our district leader at the time. And then we waited a good half hour for a bus in the scorching heat because there were no buses or transportation of any type coming. He eventually flagged down a bus, shoved our luggage in the understow carriage part of the bus, hopped on, and we were off. Best part of that bus ride was I met the girl that my companion had baptized in my first area. My trainer had baptized her in my first area, and she had grown up. It's crazy to think how fast your 2 years goes by. Because here she went from a little 14-year-old girl to 16 and 2 years more mature than when I met her. Of course, I was more mature. I was 18 when I entered the MTC, a little over 3 weeks after my birthday. And here I am a week after I turned 20, going home. And we hopped off at the bus terminal right by the SM Mall in the center of our mission, hitched a ride to the mission office. That was my second time being in the mission office my entire mission. Got there when I arrived, eventually made it there when I got home. He said goodbye, and I said, I love you, dude. Keep going. Thing like that. You don't have too much longer. You've got like 6-7 months left. Push it out. And just keep going. And had my last interview with my mission president, and it was great. It's just the thing you finally realize that you're going home and that he wants to know how you think you did. And I loved every second of my mission. Of course, there were hard times. But like Elder Bott says off of the district, the hard times or the harsh times, he knows he has them, but he can't remember them. But every single really good, happy experience or thing that made an impression on his mind, he can remember and just talk about it like that. And that was the same thing how I felt through my mission, because I just loved it to pieces. And then mission home finally came. My interview was over, and we got to hang out in the mission home for the last couple of days we were there. Played chess, played a lot of piano. We got our last group picture with all of our departing batch that was going home. Got our individual pictures with our mission president. Ate a lot of really good food. Hadn't eaten like that for years. We had pizza and Chinese food and a whole bunch of rice and Filipino food. It was the best. Had our workshop on, getting a job when we finally get back home, restarting our education if we have, or started if we haven't already, and go to college. Find a wife, elders. No, be quiet. It's kind of hard because I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. I was single and I hadn't kissed a girl until after I got home. But had that last workshop with the two of the three couple missionaries that were there. And then the next day, get up early in the morning, toss our luggage in the mission vans and vehicles, get taken to the airport, look around and take one last good look at your mission. And we were off back to Manila. And that was one of the toughest experiences I went through out there. Just realizing you're leaving and you're not coming back. Unless you can come back and afford to. We eventually made it to Manila and saw the rest of our batchmates that had gone to the mission beneath us. Other Akins, other Lethaby, other Hammond, and other Christensen. A whole bunch of the guys we knew from the MTC we finally saw again. Elder Davis. And it was just a blast because I had bought a whole bunch of ties from my mission that you can only find in my mission in the entire world and sold it to him as, like a special remembrance, remember me, remember that we served over here and that you met me. Thing like that. Made it to the hotel, had fun reunion with everybody, ate KFC that night because that was the restaurant right there next to the hotel right by the airport. Had fun that night and just rejoiced in knowing that we were going home. Next morning made it back to the airport, hopped on the airplane and I was gone. And it sucked. It's like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I hated it. I hated coming home just because of a song I heard while I was over there that was meant for missionaries and families for missionaries. The "A Land So Far Away Still Owns My Heart," thing like that, even though I was not very far from it at all. We landed in Tokyo again, finally made our flight, and didn't miss it. And at least for me, I thought I could, speak to anybody, because I had done it for 2 years, but my Japanese was crappy. But we met a member of a ward over there in Japan. He was super nice. He spoke English, thank heavens. And he each bought us a little authentic bag of Haichu candy. And we eventually hopped on another plane to take that 12 or 13 hour flight all the way back to Portland. And then kind of had like a little mini panic attack upon realizing we're flying over American soil. We're landing in Portland and this can't be happening, thing like that. And we eventually made it out, got all of our luggage, found a spot to sit down, and a member over there met us as well. And so, are you guys coming home or going? No, we're coming back home. So he said, okay, do you guys want to get a hold of your families? Because he had his phone on him. So he said, yes. So we got take a picture with him, or he took a picture of us, and sent it to our families, and they knew we had arrived back in the country.